Dearest gentle listener, your humble hosts have gathered to demystify, delight, and most importantly, deep dive into all of the seasons thus far of Bridgerton. I am your host, Marie Claire, and joining me is the incomparable Missy. Hello, Missy.
Hello. This is going to be the most fun. I am so excited. I'm going to have a good time.
It's good. So just as like a general warning, Bridgerton is a very mature show. They show lots of boob, but there's
all the
very mature topics that are handled throughout the course of the shows. Lots of sexual content. It does not shy away from that.
Nope.
So this is a mature episode. We're going to talk about lots of stuff in it. And so be warned if you're not feeling like talking about orgasms.
Because that is an important part of this discussion.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, but I want to close your eyes.
Okay.
I'm going to take you back to the Christmas time. It's Christmas time, but it's weird. You haven't really seen any of your family. And you turn on Netflix because that's what everyone was doing. It's 2020, by the way. So, you're sheltering in place during Christmas. You're not allowed to see your family. And so what do you turn on but Netflix? And you're like, let's watch some pseudo Regency period romance on the big screen TV. And then when your husband comes down and is like, what are you watching? You're like, nothing. Or you're like, I'm watching Bridgerton. There's a lot of sex.
There's so much sex. You're like, also the people in it are really pretty people.
And
like,
it's great.
It's so
good. Oh my
good.
goodness. It's great. I remember it coming out and being like, oh yeah, I'll watch however many seasons of this they want to make.
Oh, absolutely. I was hooked immediately. And it's funny because I remember, and we're going to get into this, but I remember just being absolutely shocked to see an unabashed bodice ripper, like mainstream, big budget, amazing production values. They didn't downplay or shy away from any of the really like kind of cheesy tropey elements of the romance. Like it was all there. It was all there on screen. And I I remember watching it going, how did this get made? How did this get made? They made this show. And of course it was a smash hit. Of course it was.
They put the money into it.
Yeah.
They put the marketing. They said, it's coming for you. It's on a silver platter with a little cloche. Here you go.
I know. But I mean, also just in general, like, we know, of course, and many people know what a absolutely massive multi-billion-dollar business mainstream romance is. And yet that is something that, a lot of prestige TV, as we've discussed in the past, has really avoided for a long time. And it's been very frustrating. And so it was exciting to see. Obviously, there was a lot of excitement about the diverse cast. There was and they're all gorgeous. Oh my gosh, everyone's so pretty in this. I can't handle it. There were breakout stars, like the characters of the Queen and Lady Danbury. Like everybody loves them. They're amazing. And of course, your male lead in this season, which is Regé-Jean Page, and he's so good. And oh my God, he commits to it. Like, he is utterly sincere with every
very
delivery.
Sincere. Yeah.
So good. And it just makes me happy. And the last thing I'll say before we really get into it here is that I've rewatched this season a few times by now.
Yeah.
And rewatching it this time in preparation for our conversation, I realized that what I love about it now is every time I watch Bridgerton, it feels like going back and visiting with this family whom I love so much. I love the Bridgertons. I love, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
mom and all the kids, and they are
How they sit
just
around the
delight.
table and
Yes,
like they feel like a family. They
they
really do.
do.
They did a lot of work on making them feel like a
Yes,
family.
absolutely. So it's fun to kind of, you know, go back and spend time with them and enjoy watching their dynamic as it develops. It's just really wonderful.
I think what I really love is the thoughtful storytelling that now that we've seen 3 seasons plus like a Bridgerton
Pre-
story,
like a prequel season.
like a prequel
Hmm.
season, which ties into the main storyline as part of
Yep.
it, right?
Hmm.
Um, you can pick up all of the little forethought, foreshadowing. They knew what they
Hmm.
were doing from the beginning,
Yep.
even down to what will eventually be Eloise.
Hmm.
And, you know, seeing some of the characters that are coming in that are already in place for certain roles and things like that, or at least that they've touched on their stories, the Crane story, the, you know, other
Hmm.
things like that. So we know that they knew what they wanted to do from the very beginning. And man, I love a thoughtful story. I love
Yes.
it when they put enough thought to apply symbolism this early
Yeah.
on. First
Yeah.
season, they're doing stuff that is applicable for Colin and Penn. They're doing
Yeah.
stuff that is applicable for the Queen's story. They're doing
Hmm.
stuff like what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like mad respects to our goddess and savior, Shonda Rhimes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This is her magnum opus. I love it. Makes me so happy.
And like the fact that she calls it a workplace drama, I actually love. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, this is work for these people. It's
Yeah,
very
that's what they do.
succession minded, you know, like
Yeah.
in a weird way. And so like I love it. I love how she thinks about this story. I love what she's tried to do. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
fallen a little short.
Hmm.
And I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Truthfully,
Yeah.
I turn in every time right on time
Absolutely.
when they release a new one.
Absolutely. And to your point about like, you know, like sometimes they fall short. I think that to me it's almost adds to my enjoyment of the show to know that there are a lot of actually very valid critiques of the show, but they do appear to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I really like is that they tend to they hear these, you know, this feedback. They
Mm-hmm.
do seem to be able to sort through what is real feedback and what is, you know, racist or homophobic backlash, which
Yeah, which
also is there,
also is out
which is
there.
also
Yeah.
a thing. And they seem to be able to sort through that and react to it and be able to adjust and course correct. And so, you know, they don't always get it right, but I think there's a lot of there's a very genuine desire to tell an inclusive love story. And that I think is beautiful, and it shows up in the way that they, you know, that they ultimately tell these stories. So I
And
really enjoy it.
they appreciate the original source work, but also have decided to attempt to make it like I, I know people might not understand necessarily by using the word anachronistic, but it's like the way it should have been if Shonda had had her way kind of thing. Like in
Yeah.
some ways like she's trying to make it the way that it would fit with us. And so yes, the dresses aren't right. Nobody's wearing hats. Like
Yeah.
you know, all of that. The corsets are definitely not right because they shouldn't hurt. Things like that.
Right.
Like there's obvious things that are going to be about the period and the
Yeah.
historicalness about it. But that all goes out the window the first time that you actually hear a modern song
Yes.
in like instrumental.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to draw the comparison again. The show Rain,
Right.
which like
Yeah.
it was so interesting, right? Because I mean, it was a CW show, and like for pretty much every CW show, you gotta lower your expectations, all right? You know, like it's the
Mm-hmm.
production values are not there. It's the writing is very hit or miss. It tends to be all over the place. So it's not a perfect show by any stretch of the imagination. But one of the things that I really liked is that once you get over the initial shock in that show of the anachronistic music and the what appear to be prom dresses in place of period appropriate clothing. You really start to understand it's because they're just telling a modern story in a historical context, and those features are there to signal that. So the same is true of A Knight's Tale. The movie Knight's Tale, right?
It's
Same
very
thing.
similar to A Knight's Tale.
Right.
Like
It's deliberate. They're using these contemporary things in order to design features, basically, in order to signal to you that this is intentionally a modern story. You are not supposed to think of it as historically accurate. It's not. And so that's what Bridgerton also does very well, is that it, by having these frequently modern music but in like a string quartet, or something like that, it's really fun. And so, and plus I just sometimes some of these pop songs, man, these new arrangements, they're just bangers. They're really good.
Yeah, like the one that I was thinking of when I was watching was Thank You. It's done so well. Or Thank You Next. Yeah.
Yes. Wildest Dreams is in this one too. And it's really good.
Wildest Dreams is really good.
Oh my God. Yeah. They're like, there's so many good songs where
I bet you
in
all
fact,
of them got put into somebody's wedding.
probably as they should. Absolutely. No, for sure. It's really funny. But yeah, I love all that.
Let's talk about the main characters. Let's talk about Daphne, our Bridgerton, because we got to start there because that's the name of the show. So Daphne herself, and we we often talk about K.M. Wayland with regards to archetypes, and she has done some of the best work of pulling together all of the authors and thinkers that we like to reference into like a single place to actually reference on the different archetypes. And I'm going to talk about one of them later. But she actually also talks about like how to become a better writer.
Yeah.
And one of her books talks about how every character that's well written has a want, a truth, and a lie.
And a lie. Yep.
And our two main characters are like absolutely this. And so I wanted to discuss that with you.
Yeah.
What you thought their want, their truth, and their lie is.
Oh, shoot. Well, you're putting me on the spot because I haven't given as much thought to that as you have. But I think that, I think Daphne's obvious want is she wants a love match. That's the best way to describe it. It's like her parents had a love match. And so that is what she wants for herself as well. And resulting from that, she wants a family and so on. She just wants the same loving home that she grew up in, basically. Her truth, I'm not sure. It could have something to do with that this is just her role in life.
So the truth is the thing that is actually true. So I think it's the love match aspect. She wants a love match and she wants a family, and she sort of discovers it over time. But the want is, I want to get married and I want to marry as high as I can so it helps my family.
Right.
Which is, and the want is inevitably sort of proven to be false, like in some way, right? Like, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be, all of those things. And all of that sort of fits her. And the lie that she tells herself is that, like it's, the lie she tells herself is something along the lines of that it has to be perfect. Like it goes into that want, right? Like it has to be perfect to be good. It can't be, there can't be any badness at all in it. And she learns through the course of the whole story that you can love things that are not perfect. And that also helps her sort of love herself too, because nobody is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, Simon is literally pretty much the exact same thing. I mean, his want and his truth are different, but his lie is the same.
Yeah. He has to be perfect and everything has to be perfect.
Yeah. Everything has to be perfect.
And he built that up over time. His want, of course, is to basically just die without an error.
Well, his want is to get revenge on his father, to like prove his father wrong, basically.
Yeah. And to say like, it wasn't worth it to put all this effort into whatever it was that hurt me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And his truth is something along the lines of is that he always needed somebody to trust and be trusted by.
Mm-hmm.
Like it very much ties into one of the sort of motifs I want to talk about when we get to that. But like the idea that he needed to learn how to love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what's so interesting is that you see him doing that throughout the entire story. You know, he's close to Anthony. He's close to Will. He's close to Lady Danbury. Like he has all these close relationships, but he also pulls away from every one of them as soon as he kind of realizes how invested he's becoming, and then he wants to like escape. He's afraid of
commitment.
I think he's afraid of being happy.
Yeah.
Like it's not just that he's afraid of commitment, it's he's afraid of being happy. He doesn't think he deserves it, which of course Daphne calls him out on toward the end.
She uses those words like you deserve to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And so he thinks he doesn't deserve it. And so every time he's genuinely happy with somebody that he has a close relationship with, then he kind of like backs off.
Yeah. He drowns himself in work too. Like
or
that was also something like he's got a lot of defense mechanisms that he has built over time. So this entire season comes under sort of one simple idea that starts from the beginning. And it's really through the first half of the season, this is what is the driving force. And it is the lie they tell everybody, and including themselves, which is the trope of fake dating.
Fake dating! And it's interesting because this is really, I would argue, a pretty modern trope. I went looking to see.
I tried to find something.
There's not a lot of historical examples. Like it just wasn't even, people argue like there's some of it in Shakespeare, like in like Taming of the Shrew. I saw some people claiming there's a little bit of it in Much Ado About Nothing. I don't actually agree with that. I don't think there's any fake dating in there, but there are people claiming that there's a dynamic like this, and I just don't actually see it. I really think it's a modern thing. I think it's a very modern development.
I read some people say that like Psyche and Cupid is like the foreshadowing of fake dating because it follows the same emotional beats in that they are put together in a way that nobody like there's a falsehood to it according to her family, but again it's purely modern in its modern sense.
You could argue that the predecessor to fake dating is arranged marriage, but they're still not quite the same thing. But fake dating is, to your point, very specific in terms of how it tends to be treated as a trope in mainstream romance. Which is almost always that like we're each going to get some kind of benefit from this, so let's make a deal. And
you don't see it in like I know this sounds ridiculous, but you don't see it in non-romance. Like you don't see it like we're going to be fake friends for the sake of like. I actually can't think of like an example. We're gonna be fake business partners, like I guess sort of, but like
I have an exception to that. To that. Not business partners, but we're gonna be fake parent and child. Like think of like in Andor season 2, Luthen and Clea, and like little Clea. She pretends to be his daughter intentionally to like, like as part of the con or whatever. And so, and so like
part of the con, but it ends up being more, I guess you could have fake dating in like but they don't fall in love, but like in like a criminal sense or like a James Bond movie. Like you could probably have that. But it would be awfully male gaze and they wouldn't end up necessarily together.
No, it is, but that's what I'm saying is I'm thinking of multiple examples off the top of my head. Last time we spoke, I talked about the Leon the professional, same thing where like, she's with him kind of like because she kind of helps him on his jobs, but then it becomes, a closer relationship. There's also, I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's one with Nicolas Cage where he thinks he's found his long lost daughter and she's like helping him on cons, but then it turns out she's actually conning him and she was never his daughter in the first place. But they end up with a really close relationship. I mean, spoilers, sorry, I just told you guys the ending of that movie. But anyway, it's really good. I recommend it. But yeah, like so what I'm seeing is this sort of like father-daughter dynamic. with, the sort of like fake father-daughter relationship that kind of becomes a real father-daughter relationship. So that
Right.
definitely seems to be a thing. And that almost feels like male gaze fake dating.
Yeah.
Where like they don't want it to be romance because ew, gross, yucky romance.
Yeah.
And so instead they make it a father-daughter thing.
And that in the end becomes the masculine nurturing fantasy because
Right.
they end up becoming a nurturing version of themselves, i.e. a daddy.
Oh my gosh. All right. Sorry to all you masculine writers out there, but you ain't slick. All right.
No, we're uncovering your deep
We've
psychological
got you figured out.
needs. But essentially it's the same thing. Women often write this trope because the hidden is before them this whole time.
Yep.
I mean, it's very famous. In fact, Allie Hazelwood.
Yes.
The Love Hypothesis to be a movie in 2026 to be released.
Woohoo.
Fake dating, right?
Yep.
It's so common in modern romance. And it all has to do with being able to find your partner in life in a way, and they explain it so well actually in the story, in a way that didn't have pressure to fall in love. You become friends first. You get over whatever sort of negative first reaction you originally had. But there's always something initially standing in the way of that. And through this sort of arrangement with tons of rules, you realize the rules don't matter.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is that all the barriers that would normally exist between them as a courting couple are not there because it's all a ruse. And so it allows them to have this very open conversation and really get to know one another. It leads to some of my favorite scenes in this season. Like, I really love when Simon accurately predicts what the prince is going to say.
Yeah.
And then when the prince, in fact, does say that to Daphne, she laughs and she snorts.
Yeah.
When
and then
she laughs.
Finds it cute.
Yes. But it's like so great because it's just like then they're both laughing at each other and it's like it's adorable. I love it so much. It just feels so organic and it makes their love story very believable that they have this, this very genuine friendship. And then they reference that later. They're like, oh, well, we became friends first. And so it just felt natural and everything. So it works really well.
Oftentimes this trope works best when the characters themselves have a lot of pride and believe that they are smarter than everybody else. Because they're like, oh, we're so smart. We can fool everybody. And in the end, like, oftentimes it's like the fairy godmother or like aunt or mom character that like sees through the ruse and is like, actually guys, you like really love each other.
Yes.
Like the best friend character or whatever often sees it.
And I love that too, because here, like her mother, like Violet Bridgerton, and then of course Lady Danbury, who is Simon's aunt, like they are hilarious in this because they see it right from the start. They see it. And then when the two of them later are like Simon and Daphne are kind of breaking up, like Lady Bridgerton and Lady Danbury are pissed.
Yeah, they're like, "What are you doing?
Like, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?"
It's like it's so great.
Yeah, there's usually some stakes involved in the success of the ruse and a reward that ties to the lie that they are telling themselves. So like the lie for Simon is that he wants to never marry and like have revenge on his father, and the lie for Daphne is to marry well and find the most suitable match. Like that is actually like her like big lie, is that she thinks she needs to find this like perfection.
Yeah, she thinks she can check all the boxes.
But it actually ties to their need, and they find each other in that need through that. I talked about how there's often rules that are established, like rule 1, don't fall in love with each other.
Yeah.
Like rule 2, like no kissing, actually. Like they come up with like an obscene set of rules oftentimes with fake marriages or fake dating or fake like togetherness where they have to appear in front of people, but those rules often break.
Right.
Like they
well,
break the rules.
I love that they negotiate for a certain number of balls, and then when things are not going well, she's like, "Nope, we have to do all of them," and he's over there like, "Oh darn,
oh no!" And he calls himself her general.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's like the commander, and like, and then
so
they
great.
talk about strategy and like, like it's great.
Super fun.
You know, Daphne starts to sort of respect the way that Simon stands up for her, but also like is caring and compassionate and all of these things has honor. Oh my God. That's another thing that like comes out in this is like the idea of duty and honor. It comes out in the first half of the season so much, but Simon says it, I think, almost every episode.
Yeah, he says it quite a bit. He's really hung up because his whole thing is that he felt like if he was honorable enough, he would be able to win his father's love, and it didn't happen. And so now he's, on the one hand, he has his own view of honor, and on the other hand, he feels like, why bother?
Yeah.
So he doesn't care. So his sort of like rake persona just comes from him going, why bother to play by the rules of society? It didn't work for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the first 3 episodes kind of build in pitch as we like they start to get to know each other until they hit the 3rd episode, and it's like a massive denial of yearning.
Yeah, it's the big breakup. They have a big breakup.
They have a big breakup and they're like, no, we're not going to do this. But it also ties with like peak desire at the same time. Like they realize, oh no, they're both in too deep. And so they have to like break up for the sake of themselves and the lie that they are telling themselves to protect that lie. And it all comes tumbling down in episode 4 when they actually do decide to get married. And it's like a big reveal that he's like, I can't have children. I can't give you children. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess we'll get married anyways because I love you.
Or just like, it's the only way to save my reputation. And this is where we go back to the whole thing. So one thing we haven't really talked about yet is the books. And I just want to take this moment to talk about the books because they were I'm sorry I don't have the publishing date in front of me right now, but they were written a while ago at this point. Julia Quinn is the author. And so because
2000.
Okay, 2000. All right.
Duke and I was 2000, yeah.
All right, so Duke and I is 2000. And the thing is that they're good books, but to a great extent, they are very much of their time in terms of what was common and what was popular in romance, especially Regency romance, which is a very specific subset or subgenre, and what was common at the time. And so there's a lot of stuff where, like, you know, the way that they present the ton, so to speak, is actually much more strict than it was in reality. Historical reality, it was actually, you know, there were a lot of people breaking rules left and right, and it was, you know, frowned upon, but not as ruinous as it tends to be presented in these stories.
Yeah.
So when they go into this whole like, oh my God, they were caught kissing, and therefore they have to marry immediately, or both she and the entire family will be ruined forever. And like, that's not really reflective of reality.
Yeah.
But it's like they play it up for the romance and or for the, you know, for the drama. Yeah. Right, the stakes. And so one of the things, again, that I really like about the show is that sometimes they update these things because they're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. And other times they're like, you know what, we're just going to go whole hog and embrace it. And so what I really enjoy about this one is that, like, especially the actor who plays Anthony, like, he really commits to, like, I'm willing to die for this. And they have the dueling scene, and he tells his brothers, that this is what you must do for me, be my second and all. I mean, they really play it up, and it just kills me. I laugh. I'm like so invested, and at the same time, I'm like, this is patently ridiculous, but everybody's all in. And it's a good time.
Everyone is all in.
Yep. So it's great. So yeah, so point being is, through whatever means they get there, eventually, of course, she does successfully drag him to the altar, and it is
about as real as the corsets.
It's about as real. Yeah, exactly. But we all just go with it. That's the thing.
But not, they're like, yes, we're going to get married. But then the queen
Yes.
is like, no, you cannot have a special license through the Archbishop of Canterbury. Because she's kind of miffed. They pissed her off.
Yeah.
She didn't say this marriage could happen at this point. She was hoping for her nephew to get married to the diamond of the season. That was the whole thing. And so they are forced to come in front of the queen and confess. And I friggin' I'm obsessed with the statement that they both come there and Daphne's like, it's love at first sight. And Simon's like, no,
it's
sorry.
not.
It's not. We didn't like each other at first, but we fooled everyone. And through that fooling, we became friends, and we found love through that. And I was always attracted to her. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
But no, we became friends on top of that. And to be able to wed my best friend?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Good thing Anthony wasn't in the room, because he would have been jealous.
I know, right? Aw.
But no, it was great. I'm obsessed with that, because that's exactly how I feel in my relationship with my husband. And it's
same.
It just feels like I'm very lucky to have that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so nice. And they do. And then, again, this brings me back to that I love the Bridgertons. I love the family, because their whole thing, and it's so interesting because from my perspective, I feel like the vast majority of romances that I read, especially period romances, often the father figure is overbearing and cruel, and he's selling the daughter off to the highest bidder and all this other stuff. And what's so interesting,
or she's an orphan or something,
or she's an orphan,
no family,
somebody's abusive or whatever. And what's so interesting is the way that the Bridgerton stories are all built around this family that love each other in a deep way that it is acknowledged was not necessarily typical for upper class families at the time.
Yeah.
And that part is actually historically accurate. It was not to say that people didn't love each other, but upper class families tended to be a little more distant from one another for a lot of reasons. And so this idea that they all just, that the parents had a love match, and that they just then, had all of these children whom they adored and cared for so well. And then that, the tragic death of the father, which of course we'll get to later. And then that they all remained very close as they grew older into adulthood. And then that each of them, their own romances are informed by this wonderfully supportive and loving childhood that they all had. And so I love the idea that, this story, which even though it features a rake, and even though in theory it's kind of, we'll get to this, but it's a little bit of a monster husband story and everything, even though that is true, it's all built on this family where we genuinely love and care for each other. We like each other. We are friends in addition to family. And it's just beautiful.
That's culminating in the dinner where they invite Simon over, and she makes gooseberry pie because it's his favorite, and she apologizes. She's like, it's really lively in here because we love each other, we like each other, and we like each other's company. And he actually it's the first time he actually kind of smiles in the entire show. I think he actually looks around and is like, actually, this is so nice. I've never
it's totally new to him.
You've met people who did not grow up with a happy childhood, and when they are presented with a family that likes each other, you're like, what is this? Like they are like
Yeah.
in some ways confused that it can even exist, and like how
Yeah.
lucky those people are that they have that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really well done. It's also we're going to talk about each member of the Bridgerton family. But this is also one of the first scenes where you get to see the youngest Bridgertons who because the actors age so quickly, you know, they're almost adults by the time we see them in later seasons. But in this season, they're very little. You know, you've got Gregory and Hyacinth, and they are adorable, and they're fighting and they're throwing peas at each other, and they're da 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 da. And it's like, and it's the rest of the family's trying to keep the peace or taking sides or whatever. And you can see that Simon is charmed by this, and it's really sweet. And again, that goes back to like what's so fun about this. And they knew that this was what people liked about the show because they repeat that kind of family dinner scene in other seasons. Then you get more of that because it's a very appealing
and you get
dynamic.
Foil versions of that, especially in the second season with like Kate's family and like
her grandparents, or like I guess, or step
grandparents. Like you get more of that in the mix, right?
Right.
It's interesting. They know what they're doing. That makes me super happy because then this sort of conversation is like, oh, they knew what they were doing this whole time.
Yeah, this was all purposeful.
So let's talk about the monster husband of it all. And there's two sort of motifs which I think oftentimes in modern storytelling are actually combined into one. And so when I talk about them, you're not going to react well to one of them, but it's because of how the lenses of the story are actually different depending on the character that you're talking about. And so I'm going to talk about that, which is monster husband, Beauty and the Beast being the most common one that we think about, and Bluebeard.
Yep.
And Bluebeard, of course, for those who might not be familiar with it, is the story of a lady who marries a very wealthy landowner who had a blue beard. That is literally his name. He had a blue beard. They always call back to the fact that the blue beard still exists because it was hung up on a wall somewhere. They captured the blue beard. It always starts out that way. He had a lot of land. He had a beautiful house. He built this palace, or he gave her this palace. But he said, you cannot open this one locked door. There's this one locked door. You cannot go in. That is my one rule. He gave her everything she ever wanted, but she still desired to open that door through the encouragement of her sister. They go and open the door, and inside of the door are all of the corpses of his formerly dead brides.
Yep.
He's done this before, right? And of course, Beauty and the Beast is the monster husband. They get married, or they are together. He captures her, etc. And through the course of it, they learn to love each other, love the darkness, love the light, etc. But she finds a secret in his life. So in the oldest version of Beauty and the Beast, which is Cupid and Psyche, she eventually finds the box, which has all of the things in it that Persephone tells her to never release or open inside. But
even before that, it's his identity is the
it's
first
his identity.
Thing.
Yes,
like it's
like
usually
his truth.
Right. And most Beauty and the Beast tales, it has something to do with seeing his true self. It's usually there's an aspect of his true self which is hidden, and so she discovers it usually, and that's her breaking the taboo. And so it's interesting how even though, you know, we think of Beauty and the Beast as Bluebeard as very different stories, they actually have a lot in common, because in both cases there is something about his true nature which is hidden from the bride, and she has to find it. It is necessary for her to find the truth. And so she does. It's just that one ends with, you know, okay,
corpses.
I found
and in the end her brothers in Bluebeard come and kill Bluebeard. Right. Like
right.
So there is this like family element that is quite strong in Bluebeard that I do see a lot of in Bridgerton.
Yes, absolutely.
But oftentimes, like, you might get a Bluebeard-ish story and how it plays out, especially if the monster husband appears human.
Mhm.
But it actually ends up ending, if it ends up happily, it ends up like Beauty and the Beast. Their
Right.
curse is broken through psychological confrontation and coming to terms and acceptance and all of that. And there is
Mhm.
no dead wives in the cabinet. There was actually a rose, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes these two stories are combined, and that's what happens in this, in that he had a curse. He was a stutterer. He wasn't born perfect. He worked to overcome it. I'm not saying that stuttering is a curse, but in his mind, he felt like he had a problem. He was monstrous in his own mind because his father also told him he wasn't valuable.
Right.
He worked to overcome it. Lady Danbury helped to overcome it. He worked on being perfect.
Yeah.
The curse actually becomes his hate for his father.
Mhm.
And his unwillingness to accept love.
Yeah.
And so much like Beauty and the Beast, he has to learn how to love and then be loved in return and accept that love.
Yeah, and the bodies in the locked room are basically that hatred, and therefore, this vow that he has made to his father that he will end the Hastings line and not have any children. So that is the secret that Daphne has to discover, and which she does in, a way that breaks the taboo, in a way that is frankly violent, like that. Daphne goes to great lengths in order to discover this truth, and she violates him, and it's there's some problems with the way that it's done, and it also fits the story in a weird way because it's like it's necessary to break the rules. It's necessary to defy and to refuse and to, go into the dark. And so that's what happens.
And so she becomes a bad person.
She does.
To do this.
Yes.
She sort of like meets the monster on the monster's footing in some ways, which like you can argue how bad it is. Absolutely. It is fiction, and it does what it needs to do from a symbolic perspective.
Yeah. And so that's what happens. And then, but then to your point, after that, it does switch then to becoming more of a Beauty and the Beast tale. Yes. It also does continue on as the Cupid and Psyche version, in that she sort of undergoes trials in order to
like she rescues
retrieve him,
or like she goes out and does these things for other people. She saves her brother. Like he's able to see how much she is still a loving and caring person who cares like all the time about others.
Right. And when she finds the letters, to me, that is that journey into the underworld to meet Queen Proserpina, take the box, the forbidden box, and bring it back. And so that's when she finds the letters that he wrote.
That's what I was referring to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was really talking about it. But the scene when she's like walking down the hallway and she sees him, but still goes into the office, into the library or whatever, what that was his father's. It so reminded me of Bluebeard. Like
it really is.
Like that moment. Like I took a screenshot of it because I was like, oh my God, this is Bluebeard. So those two motifs are combined. And if you look out for it, if you're like, oh my God, this kind of feels like Beauty and the Beast, but not quite. When you're watching a story, it's because there's a lot of Bluebeard in it. Usually.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because as I was watching this, it hit me that the Disney Beauty and the Beast actually has a lot more Bluebeard in it than even the original Beauty and the Beast does. Like as in the actual tale. I forget what her name is, the woman that wrote it, but in that story, it's really just they have dinner every night, right? Originally. But in the Disney version, she is forbidden to go to the West Wing. She can go anywhere in the castle, in the palace, but she can't go to the West Wing. So of course she goes right to the West Wing.
Goes and finds the rose, goes and finds the portrait of him.
Exactly. And so she discovers the truth of him there. And He frightens her, she flees, and when she returns, it is no longer Bluebeard, and now they're dining together, and now they're like, so now it becomes Beauty and the Beast. But it was really interesting because it hadn't really occurred to me before about how intensely Bluebeard that part is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I was like, dang.
And some of the key things about Bluebeard that I do want to call out is that it's absolutely a formative motif for many maiden stories in the transformation from maiden into heroine or hero into queen. Like, you need to go through this stage where there is a danger about the world. Simon isn't the predator. The predator is Lord Rutledge. The kind of gross...
Rutledge is Marina's predator.
Oh no, Rutledge, not Rutledge. Sorry.
No, it's what is his name?
Oh shoot.
Yeah, whatever. The guy at the beginning, the one she punches in the face.
The gross guy. Yeah, that guy. Sorry.
It's okay.
Lord Burbrook.
Thank you. Nigel Burbrook.
Nigel Burbrook, who's so gross to her. He's really gross to her. He really is. He treats her like a prize to be won and all of these things. And like, but the key is there's two things that come out of the Bluebeard story, that you're being stalked by a predator. And oftentimes, like in modern storytelling, we see the predator becomes the mate in modern storytelling. And it's very like, psychologically satisfying for like a femme character to turn the predator into an ally or a lover. And also you see a lot of the intuition. She trusts her intuition. She's like, something is wrong. She goes and follows up. She investigates. She's nosy. And all of these things that like she's not supposed to do. The want and the lie say she's not supposed to be this. She's not a good wife if she goes and like investigates. She's not a good wife if she goes and sneaks around and like finds out these things. But she follows her intuition, and that what leads her to her success. And so I do want to call that out, that is like why I'm so adamant this is actually like a big Bluebeard Beauty and the Beast story.
It absolutely is 100%, which is so funny to me because everybody focuses on like, I always see people referring, and we'll get to this, but like in season 2, everyone refers to Kate and Anthony as lovers, as enemies to lovers, and I'm not sure I buy that. But regardless, I think like these two
annoying maybe
rivals. We'll get there. But in this one, it's not that Simon and Daphne are enemies to lovers, because they're not.
No. But
there is intense monster husband stuff going on. You can also, and for that matter, you can point out that there's a lot of like Hades and Persephone stuff going on, right? You know, she is Persephone of the, the springtime world. Everything is wonderful and beautiful all the time.
The
where
fertile
she lives.
family that she comes from.
Exactly. And then she kind of is drawn into his world and has to discover the truth. And, and then of course there's the eating of the fruit, which has always been a metaphor for both sex and knowledge, which are both. And her whole thing is that like she had no knowledge of anything sexual at all. She just was completely ignorant. And when she discovered the truth, it was like this revelation. And now she can't unknow that. She can't go back. And so it's this, she has crossed beyond and she cannot return. And so then she has to figure out how to live in this new world, or rather live in both worlds. How can I be both, of my family and also of this new family now that I'm building with my husband, and trying to figure that out. So it's really,
it really culminates in her big, like, like, at the end, after the cleansing rain, which of course symbolizes like rebirth and like the fact that they're like, it's a fresh start. Like that's always like rain, right? So they're at their ball and they dance, and in the midst of their dance, they get to start again, right? And then they sleep on it and they meet in the morning. And she's like, just because something is not perfect does not make it any less worthy of love. And I love all of you, even the parts that are too dark and too shameful. And then they decide, you stay and we get through this, and then nothing else will matter. Like basically the commitment that her mom had been talking about, you decide to be with each other every day.
Right.
Every day, you know? And then of course they have sex.
Well, I mean, like, it's important to note that scene, that final sex scene that they have, is actually the real consummation.
Yes.
Like, they had had sex. They had had sex before, but the whole point was that he was holding something of himself back. He was not 100% in union with her. There was a part of himself he was not sharing symbolically.
It's like the symbolic monster husband idea that he was lying to her through this omission.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason, and don't get me wrong, again, that's not to say that Daphne was in the right. She also did things wrong. But the point being that that's what was happening symbolically. And so then symbolically, he has to not hold anything of himself back in order for them to be in full communion with one another. So yeah. So it's really, it's interesting because it seems like it's like, it's just another sex scene, but like it matters. It matters. And that's another thing too.
And
I think
even like what Lady Whistledown talks about. Like the union in the like voiceover.
Yeah.
Like the words say it basically out loud.
No, she's even got something about like who's ever seen a more impressive finish? And I was like, finish? That's the word she used.
Finish? Yeah, that's the line. That's the line she says. Oh my gosh.
Dying laughing.
Yeah, it's like, so good.
So funny.
Anyways, I love congratulations, Emmy Award winning. Voiceover artist Julie Andrews.
Right? I know. Oh my god.
Yeah, she won for Lady Whistledown in season 3.
As she should. As she should.
I hope she continues on. I know that's a little, like now we know it's Penn officially. She's out in the world. I still hope that Julie Andrews does it as long as
I don't think they will, because they switched the voiceover at the end of the last season.
They did. Yeah.
So I don't think they will. And it's also
but that's fine. I guess.
I love Julie Andrews and I want her to continue, but I also know she is also aging quite a bit. And I think, they want to allow her to bow out when she's ready. So, but she's done an amazing job. So
I do also want to say, like, psychologically, what this motif does, these two motifs, as well as fake dating in general, is like so it's kind of like we had two major sort of plot lines, like, and it was split almost equally in the season, or two major motif periods. We had fake dating, and then we had the Beauty and the Beast, more mythical fairy tale stuff.
Right.
And surprisingly, the show has a lot of fairy tale stuff.
It has a lot more than I realized.
Like, every season, we're like, what is going on with all of these motifs? So we're very excited to like hint or just briefly talk about what we'll deep dive into when we talk about stuff in later seasons.
Yeah.
But really, psychologically, what's happening is the fake dating and Beauty and the Beast allow you to get to know somebody's darkness and light and get to know like the whole person. And so you can help carry each other's baggage or shadows as part of the relationship. And what is that more than just like richer or poorer, better or worse? Like it's the whole idea of all these traditions that we build around union and marriage and being with a partner and going through good and bad in a psychological motif and story. And story tells us the truth of humanity through metaphor.
Right. And that's also why, even though I know that sometimes it gets a little frustrating the way that they kind of, it does sometimes feel like they're dragging out the other characters' stories, just kind of like biding their time until their season. And, so, I mean, they do that with varying levels of success. But that said, I do kind of like that the other characters get failed romances, because it kind of shows you what they're missing, what they're not getting. What is it that they still need to learn that they haven't learned yet? And so I really like that. So I think it's one of the things that makes, Antony's his failed romance in this story very, very interesting, is that, he basically wants to change his lover. He
Was
wants her,
Sienna. Yeah.
Sienna, he wants her to fit, this
His
very
world.
specific
Yeah.
image of what he thinks his wife needs to be. And or otherwise, he's just never going to bring her into his world. So she's always either going to be separate or she's going to have to completely change to fit his world. And that's just not, that's not fair to her. And it's not reasonable for him to basically ask his lover to either not fully have him or to not be able to fully give of herself. And so he still needs to learn that. He needs to learn this idea of bringing his whole self to to
a relationship.
a relationship, right?
And the relationship is also like the metaphor for his whole life, because he doesn't bring his whole self into anything he does. Everyone knows he's only half there half the time.
Right, exactly. It even starts that way with like, well, you did show up, but you were late. So it's like you only half kind of did your duty.
Yeah.
So exactly. So there's a lot of that. And each character kind of has that of like, there's something in this season where they're not quite getting it. Like they're learning some things, but they're still missing out on something critical. And I think that's so interesting to be able to see these characters develop over a much longer period of time and see how they change and grow. It's fascinating. And
let's talk about Anthony. Let's talk about our bonus foreshadowing points and the things that we've noticed through this season. So what I loved about Anthony this season was how much like Kate he was.
Oh my gosh, yes. You could really see it.
Like he's just so obsessed with like doing what's right and like shoving away people he views to be improper or terrible, but then like kind of messing up a bit. like it was like I was watching the second season and I didn't really notice it until this rewatch, even though I've rewatched this over and over again. And then we got that beautiful shot of the bee at the last scene when she's having her baby, little baby, and we see the bee on the windowsill.
I will admit that I struggle with the bee as a symbol a little bit, just because the context in this story, especially in season 2, obviously,
it's hard.
Is pretty upsetting. And so I struggle a little bit because it's hard for me to see it as this like charming, uplifting emblem for the Bridgertons. The best that I can
death.
do. Right. Well, the best that I can do is that it's actually the father's soul. With them at all times.
Yeah.
That's
they did
the
show
best
the bee at the start of the season.
It shows up at the very beginning. Right. And they show the bee repeatedly throughout. And so I kind of that's the only way I can kind of square it, is that, the bee is kind of his soul accompanying them throughout all of this.
Kind of bearing witness that he's always there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But it's still a little macabre.
Okay. We'll have to ask somebody someday.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, with Anthony, I think that to your point, he really does, like, he is relatable as an eldest child.
Oh yeah. He's got big eldest child problems.
Yeah.
And also he's like pushing against the concept of duty and expectations on him because he became Lord Bridgerton so young.
Yeah, well, and he was never able to be himself because he had to be the Viscount. So he's not able to escape these expectations on him. And he tries to push back, hence his romance with Sienna and everything. But ultimately he decides that, it's no use. There's no use in trying. And so I'm just gonna fight. It's like malicious compliance, right? I'm gonna follow the rules to the letter.
I'm gonna go for the best one of any season. Come on.
He's like
the best one should be the best.
She's like, I'm gonna have a bride, and I'm just gonna take the best one there is, and that's gonna be it. And he's like, I'm gonna have babies, and I did my duty. Done. It's like that's his whole shtick.
Instead of like trying to find his own joy and his own path and his own happiness, he's swung the other way, like to the extreme, right?
Right, right. Where it's purely just marriage is only this, just only there so that he can fulfill his duty to his family and no other reason.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so Anthony, we'll get to talking about him next season. So do we want to talk about? We're gonna go in the order of the kids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Not
Benedict.
the order of the seasons. Benedict. I
It's
gotta
easy.
tell you.
They're alphabetical. That was pointed out multiple times in the show.
I love that. I love that. Benedict, I gotta be real with you. So I love Benedict in the show. Do not love Benedict as much in the books, to be honest with you. He did not work for me in the books. But I love him in the show.
I don't like him in the show.
Really? That's so interesting.
Yeah, I struggle with him. I find him to be just not serious. And
he's not, but that's also his thing.
Not charming in that not seriousness. And it might work for people, but
yeah, fair enough.
But it could be just because he hasn't had main character energy yet. He hasn't had the crown
of
like the halo of main character yet. So I haven't had a chance to be like, okay, I can see him in main character. He's just been too flighty and too wandery all seasons. So I just maybe it just rubs me the wrong way as a person who's like, I got too much to do. Like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm going to be an artist or whatever. Like, he just wanders around. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because it's like, so we'll get to this, but Anthony, of course, he's got all of this expectation he's dealing with, right? Colin had no expectation, but always had a dream. Like he wants to travel. And, ultimately, of course, much later we learn he also likes to write and stuff like that. And so he has a, something that he's passionate about. Benedict kind of doesn't have any of that. Yes, he wants to be an artist, but he's also not sure if he's good enough. Not sure if that's really what he wants to do. Even if he did, would it matter? Is he only getting attention as an artist because he's a Bridgerton and all this other stuff? So he ends up kind of dealing with, just having no direction, having no purpose, and he's really struggling. And so I think
who he reminds me of?
Who?
Luigi of the Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah. Yes, I would agree.
Big Luigi energy.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I love him though because I do think he's funny, he's silly.
Yeah.
And I love his relationship with Eloise. I think
I do love that
the most adorable sibling relationship. It's really even in this season, the scene where she's ready to leave and he's like, yeah, I'm ready to leave too. And she's like, you are my very favorite brother. It's adorable. It's so cute.
I actually like him the most, I think, when he's with Madame Delacroix. I think I like him the most this season then.
Yeah, he has.
It seems like he's trying to find happiness, and whereas the rest of the season he's so wandery. I'm like, I just don't have patience for you, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's that I just don't have patience for his journey of self-discovery that he's on, and he discovers a lot.
Well, see, I have patience for his journey of self-discovery in season 1 and in season 2. By season 3, I'm sick of his journey of self-discovery and I need him to get with the program. So
I was tired of him after this season. I was like, dude, just figure out your stuff. You seem really lost, and he gets more lost. He gets very, very lost. Not that I think that the bioawakening is bad or anything. I think it's actually quite good for his character, but I just don't have patience for him in general.
But again, we'll get to that. But even the bioawakening for him is he doesn't treat it like I'm approaching this with seriousness, as in
he's such
he kind of approaches it with nothing matters, who cares, it's not important anyway, anything goes. He's and that's ultimately what leads to him kind of hurting his lover in that story, is that he doesn't understand that she does take it quite seriously, and so because he's not taking it seriously. So Benedict, let's just put it this way. He has a lot of growing to do.
Yes.
He has a lot of growing to do, this man. But for me, certainly I find him quite charming, again, especially with his relationship with Eloise. So moving on to Colin.
Yeah. And Penn
I also love
adjacent.
Colin. Yes, Colin and Penn. Let's talk about them together. So tell me.
The very first scene we see Penelope, she's wearing a yellow dress with a giant butterfly on her bodice.
Yep.
And that will tie to symbolism that we will talk about in that third season of Psyche and Cupid. Psyche's main symbol that we associate with her is the butterfly. And so, wow, okay, you guys understood your symbolism this early on. We also have their establishment of their friendship this early on, and there's some people, like, I kind of like reading takes on the internet, and then I'm like, why did I read this take on the internet? We're like, Colin and Penn felt so rushed. I'm like, did you not watch the rest of the season?
Who says that? I'm sorry. Okay, anyone listening, if you think Colin and Penn felt rushed, I really don't know what you're talking about, because
rushed in the season itself. Like,
no,
I don't know.
It's been built up for so long.
And even in the season, like, it doesn't happen until like the third
Fourth
last episode. Really, like, it's really late even in the season.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. All I know is that I'm very happy with the ramp up to Penn and Colin's romance. I mean, I have quibbles with all of there's always something I think could be better, but generally speaking, I'm really happy with it. And I really love them in this season. They're so cute. You see him coming to her rescue when Cressida like dumps wine on her or whatever. Like, it's so cute. And like, they have the best relationship. I love the little joke they tell each other when they are at, the one ball where they're like, oh, doesn't the young lord looks like he resembles the footman? That's curious.
That was great. Like they're already really close.
Yes.
And that's why it's so hard for them to imagine being with each other later on.
Right.
That's the problem brewing already.
Right.
What did you think of Colin and Marina?
So I know, and this goes back to things that this pod is not about, but which I think are worth mentioning in passing. There are some issues with the way that Marina's character is treated. Certainly, like, there's some problems, like, racially with what they did with her character. And I know that the actress was genuinely not happy from what I heard. So there are some issues. That said, I find Marina herself to be a very appealing character. Like, the idea of like taking this character who, she ends up in a desperate situation. She doesn't really have any good alternatives. And so she takes what is the most, the best option in front of her and goes, I need this guy. And
he's a good person.
He's a good person.
Yeah.
And she's understandably terrified of telling him the truth. So she decides she's going to entrap him. And, that's wrong. But again, we're getting into like, she's supposed to be a teenager. She's supposed to be completely abandoned by everyone in her life. And, she's going to be destitute and everything. It's very serious. And there are multiple scenes in this season where it is impressed upon us, the audience, exactly what her life will be like if she does not find a husband.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be bad. And so I don't have a problem with Marina personally. I think she's an interesting character. I think she's interesting for Colin. I think that, showing how quick he is to give his heart and then, how he gets burned for it is a really important aspect of his character.
I also really like, and we'll get into this in the next season, what happens in next season with her. Like, I really appreciate that growth and also how she's able to reflect back at Colin, a lesson to be learned.
Right. Well, just the idea that she was not entirely in the wrong and he has some responsibility as well. And she makes sure to tell him that. She basically tells him to grow up in the next
it's great.
next season.
It's great. And he also, has this, we start to see his development of his want, his truth, and his lie.
Mm-hmm.
And we start to see that, like, I want to travel, and his lie about, like, I can't find what I need in my own backyard.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. He thinks he
I
has
need
to
to go
leave.
off and find the exotic,
Mhm.
and in many ways, I think Marina, like, because she was new, represented that to him.
She wasn't a hometown girl. She was from somewhere else. And so he was like, oh.
And he was very young too. So like he goes off and travels and is like the only thing that made, like, but we'll get into that, and that's their season. But yeah, that we're starting to see the development of that. And we also get introduced to the fact that Penn is actually Lady Whistledown at the final moment of the season.
Exactly. And it works really well too when you go back and you actually watch it with that knowledge. Like,
and you see her face go.
Yeah, you can kind of see it all, and it's like, and it makes sense too. It makes sense that this because her whole shtick is like she's the wallflower, she's always passed over, she's always ignored, and so she's able to see what's happening with everyone else,
Yep,
So
and in fact, she's
really
actually quite smart because she notices those things like the footman's hair color and the baby. Yeah.
But because she's so busy, it actually has some similarities to Emma in my mind. Because she's so busy observing everyone else, she ends up sort of like failing to understand herself. And so it's very interesting how that goes. But I love Colin and Penn. Listen, I understand that the ship name is Pollen, but I'm never going to get over, I think it should have been Featherbridge. Just me. But
okay.
But pollen.
Can't fight with Tumblr. It's all right.
Listen, sometimes you just got to give it up. Sometimes it's just
Go
like
with the most popular name so people can find your tags.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when courtly lesbians didn't work out, we all went for Tanthamore, and that is just as well. So
just
fine. It's all good.
All right, let's talk about Eloise, who during this season was really used as a foil for Daphne.
Very much so. Almost too much, I'll be honest.
Too much, like very obvious. Like she was always complaining.
Well, they ended up making it seem like they actually didn't like each other. And after a while, I got kind of bummed about it because I wanted them to have this close sisterly bond, and they kind of didn't. It sort of bummed me out. I was like, she was clearly much closer to the brothers and to Penn than she was to Daphne. So, but I get it. They don't actually have a lot in common.
Feel like Daphne was very much alone.
Yes, I felt that too.
But maybe that was purposeful to tie into the monster husband trope and motif.
Yeah. Well, they did similar things with Daphne that they do with Antony, which is actually why those two are fairly close. Like, remember they have that scene where they are both down in the kitchen having
trying to figure out how to heat up milk.
Right. And they don't know how to use the oven, so they're like, it's cool. We'll just do, or the stove. They're like, we'll just drink cold milk. So, so they're funny though, because but they just have this really nice, easygoing relationship, and they talk about stuff, and it's because of the fact that they both deal with the pressures of being the eldest. Like, he is the eldest son, she is the eldest daughter. And, as she says multiple times, part of the reason why her marriage is so important is because it sets the standard for the rest of her family. It makes possible the good matches for the rest of her sisters. And so she kind of views it as like a responsibility she has toward Eloise, but Eloise does not appreciate that because she doesn't want to get married. She has no interest. She wants to be independent and is very resentful that is not really an option for her.
Can I just do a quick sidebar? As the eldest daughter in a family, I identified with the fact that her older brother was in trouble, and she's like, I must return home to save the day.
Yes.
What? They have the entire rest of the family and her mother, and she's like, no, big eldest daughter.
She's like, I gotta handle this. Yeah,
I gotta handle this. I gotta show up. The Duchess and Duke have to be there for them.
Yep.
Like, whoa.
No, absolutely. Same. I felt the same way. I was like, yep, I understand.
But this is the start of Eloise not really understanding the world, and how finding a marriage situation in this society could give her the opportunities to do all the things that she wants to do.
Well,
Too.
it could. It could if she has. So Eloise's biggest problem, in my opinion, is she's so judgmental. She judges everybody else constantly. I mean, she is harsh.
Yeah.
Harsh. And she gets called out for it on a number of occasions. It's not unusual for people to be like, "What is your problem, Eloise?" You know, like
she always has kind of like a face, like she's like upset
confused or upset or confused, like
yeah.
Well, she's also really defensive. Part of her being super judgmental is that anytime anyone asks her a question or they look at her or they discover her doing something, she's always like, "Oh, I'll bet you think this about me." And they're like, "No, why?" Like, she does that in the second season. She does that to Theo. She's like, "You probably think I'm a stupid woman." And he's like, "I did not say that. What are you? Where did you get that from?" Like, Eloise's problem is she projects her own insecurities out onto everybody else, and then she judges everyone else based on how she views herself. And so she's another character that, like, I do love her. She's really charming, and I love her relationship with Penn. As I've said, I love her relationship with Benedict and everything, and later Colin as well. It's very sweet. But at the same time, I'm like, I need this character.
She's another one
grow.
who has like a lot of growing up to do.
She's a lot of growing up to do. She really needs
Benedict,
to grow.
Like I get tired of by the third season, both of them, because I'm like, oh lordy. Oh, but yeah. I mean, they kind of play it like the second child, like, so she's the second daughter and he's the second son, and so they both kind of have very similar problems. It's probably why they get along so well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They're very similar.
Francesca is like barely in the season. She's in the first episode and then like the second to last episode or the last
and that's pretty
episode,
much it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And her, Gregory, and Hyacinth don't have a lot going on. We don't really know what kind of amorphous blobs they are, other than Francesca is, of course, into music, and that's why she spends a lot of the time in Bath is studying with a master.
Right.
And that's really all we get. But it's also, they're all really important because they offer an opportunity to view the family and for like Simon to play with them.
Yes.
Be part of the family and connect with them. And he's like, yeah, I've always been great with kids. It's like, dude, like,
yeah, absolutely. That's their role in this is for, you know, for Daphne to be able to share, again, that loving home life she has with Simon, and for him to come to realize that actually that is something that he wants for himself. But while we're at it, I do want to, like, really quickly, I want to make sure we talk about Violet. I want to talk about Lady Danbury and, of course, the Queen. So I think they're the other really important characters we have here. So Violet, I adore Violet. I wish Violet could be everybody's mommy. She's such a good mommy.
She is a really good mommy, and she's so frustrated like most of this season.
Yeah, all of the seasons, she's like, my children drive me insane.
Yeah, like she's like mad at Anthony, and then she's mad at like Simon and Daphne for not communicating, and then like she does like, she's too shy to talk about sex, even though that woman obviously enjoys it. And it's like, it's that weird dichotomy of like prudishness that causes women sometimes to get into situations, and men to get into situations that are not good for them and not healthy. And this is why sex education is like really, really important.
Yep.
But yeah, it's she's not without her faults, and Daphne calls her out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that probably the thing that comes out of this season for me that's the most important, and then, you know, informs everything you learn about Violet after that, is that, again, they're emphasizing how much she and Edmund, who was her husband, how much they loved each other. And there's that beautiful scene where she kind of wakes up in the morning and she rolls over and places her hand on the pillow where he would have been. And of course, he hasn't been there for, at this point, about 10 years, I think, or more. And and she's like, you just see it of this, like, you know, the pain never goes away. Yeah. Like, she's always grieving, but she has to live her life. And so it's a really beautiful moment. And that's, again, why I know it's like, it's the silly show with the very inaccurate corsets and the anachronistic music and all of the goofy,
But
and
it
yet it has
gets
these
the
really poignant
feels.
moments.
It gets
Yeah.
the feels, and it gets these moments where like you're like, oh yeah, that was real.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful. And then what's cool about that is that they do that visually, and there's no lines in that scene, but then she references it later when she's talking to Daphne, and she says, I may, wake up in the morning and your father will never be there with me the way he was, but I'm so grateful that we had the time we did together, or what I'm paraphrasing, but like it's really lovely. And it explains why in later seasons, in this season and in later seasons, she just has no tolerance for her children when they refuse love. She's pissed at them.
She's like, I know the bar that I have set, but it'll come. Just marry your best friend.
Yeah, exactly. And she does not like it when her children are not true to themselves. She wants them always to be true to themselves and, don't settle. And I think that's a beautiful thing for her. So
yes, to thine own self be true.
Exactly.
In a person. Like she does come off as like big, like good fairy godmother energy sometimes.
Very
like
much, yeah.
That, and so does Lady Danbury. She comes off as like the fairy that comes to like rescue the prince or curse the prince or whatever, like give the prince all of the things that he needs in his castle.
Yes.
In Beauty and the Beast. But she is also like his godmother, his fairy godmother, because she comes in and saves him from the situation that he's in. And gives him love and support that nobody else gave him. He's basically she fills in for his mother.
Yeah, well, and Lady Danbury in this season and in the next season is really purely a mentor character. She doesn't really come into her own as sort of, with her own main character energy until the prequel season with Queen Charlotte.
Yes.
And then that story continues a little bit then into season 3.
They explore more about her secrets.
Right. So you get more into her history, and so then you get to see more of the story from her perspective. But in these first 2 seasons, she really is purely just a mentor character. But she does such a wonderful job, and she's so interesting. And because she sort of is very big into like, I live my life the way I want, and I defy the standards of society. She doesn't care. Like, I think that's very cool about her. That it leads to that whole sequence of the soiree with the married ladies of the ton.
Yeah, I love that.
And she's got them all there, and they're smoking and drinking and gambling and being loud and like
sharing the truth of they're sharing their truth in those in the room. It's great.
It's really good.
It also kind of shows Daphne that there could be a life like her expectations of what her life would be. She would probably be okay either way.
Right.
If he had left or not.
Right. And it was important for her because she makes the point earlier in the season about how like the only thing she's ever been raised for is finding a husband, not necessarily having a husband. And so she has no idea sort of what to do with her life really after she gets married. And so, going to this event and meeting all these other married women, it sort of like shows her like, oh, wow, there's like a whole world and a whole life to live beyond the point of getting married, which was really important for her to see. So
Lady Danbury is one of my favorite characters, and
she's
like continuing
wonderful.
She's
I
great.
love her so much. She's such a great character. Every time she shows up with her cane, I'm like, I love her. She's so fantastic.
Let's talk about Queen Charlotte, because this came out.
Yes.
Like, this came out, and like it had already been circulating how much like genealogy they had done into Queen Charlotte because of Meghan marrying into the royal family. And they wanted to like make it okay for the white people. It was so funny. And but this queen, like, she has this massive gravitas. Like, the actress kills it. She's
so good.
It.
She's so good.
Like, if we were talking about archetypes, she's actually a king archetype because she rules the kingdom.
Right. Yeah.
But she rules it in a sick king's stead. So a
Mhm.
sick king archetype is usually an archetype where there is something wrong with the kingdom. There is a curse usually on the kingdom, but it is because the king is sick. And
Mhm.
King George was known as the Mad King, and he was not well known
Mhm.
to be publicly facing
No.
most of his
Yeah.
reign,
Adulthood. Right.
adulthood.
Yeah. Mhm.
And, I don't want to go into like history or anything like that, but they specifically solve the problem of the kingdom in the way which we eventually find out Charlotte has, is that love is the only thing that matters to Charlotte. She wants happy marriages and entertainment.
Mhm.
That is what she wants. She wants people to make love matches or people to get married and make
Mhm.
more babies.
Yep.
Literally, it's what
Yeah.
she tells all of her children to do. All
Yep.
13 of them. 13 children.
Mhm. I mean,
And,
15 originally, right?
oh, I
13 in
know.
adulthood. Yeah.
13 in
So-
adulthood. Sorry.
no, but like it's just
Like, they had
pointing
a
out.
lot of kids.
They had a lot of kids. Yeah.
Whoa. And you don't do that unless you actually like the other person.
Right. Right.
They
Yeah.
had multiple
So-
palaces. They didn't have to see each other.
Mhm.
But she ends up sort of making everything about love. And this foreshadows this motif that she actually represents Aphrodite in a later season.
Yep.
And so I don't want to go into that too much, but yeah, in a later season, she is Aphrodite. She is the controller of love.
Well, she is the goddess. This is important. And she's specifically Aphrodite or Venus.
Or Venus, yeah.
As the case may be, same thing. And what the one kind of piece of foreshadowing I do want to point to in this season is that yeah, her whole shtick is this: she's very tough, and everyone's scared of her because she's like a word from the queen can make or break your fortunes and all this other stuff, and like she's able to make Simon and Daphne come grovel to her for the the special license and all this other stuff. So, she's very tough, and then also, anytime someone kind of mentions the king in like the first half of the show, she's always just like, "Oh, is he dead?"
Yeah.
And so you think at first that maybe she doesn't really care about him and she's just like waiting for him to die. And then what happens is about little over halfway through the season, she is told, "Oh, the king is lucid today."
Mhm.
And she goes to sit down and meet with him, and they have this very sweet kind of like little luncheon together, and they're just chatting and everything. And he mentions, "Oh, remember that time I planted bluebells and we were walking amongst the bluebells, and you said it was like we were walking in the clouds."
Mhm.
And that ends up foreshadowing what we learn about them later, which is that they are star lovers, celestial lovers. He is, eventually we come to find, Farmer George of the earth. Hence, he planted those bluebells.
Venus.
And she is Venus of the sky. Hence, she was walking in the clouds. And so, again, the fact that they put that so early in this show. Yeah. And it just kind of shows they know where they're going with it. And I love it. And I love it also that they do, after that scene, they really start to kind of drop in more hints about how painful this is for her, and how when she says things like, "Oh, is he dead?" It's not because she wants him to die. It's
She's
because
scared. Yeah.
she's scared, and she's also suffering this pain of like having him but not having him. They are separated most of the time, and they come together so rarely, which is also a star bride thing, is that frequently the lovers are separated and they can only come together when certain celestial events occur. And so that's, these moments when the king is lucid is when they can come together, but then they're separated again, and it's very tragic for her. So but it's so beautifully done.
Yeah, and it seems like he has some sort of version of Alzheimer's or dementia in this season, and so he doesn't necessarily remember what's happening all the time. And even in the moment, she sort of plays pretend for a bit, but it's too painful for her to remember that one of her adult children has died.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. I mean, dealing with somebody who has dementia or Alzheimer's is really, really, really hard.
yeah. Yeah.
But that was Bridgerton season 1.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, we did it, Marie Claire. Only 3 to go, and then they'll release more and we could do more.
Well, plus Queen
Yeah.
Charlotte, because we
That's right.
absolutely need to cover Queen Charlotte because of
Mhm.
that Star Lover motif.
For sure.
It is so strong.
It's very
so
strong. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing. I'm excited about it. But yeah, no, so really love it. I mean, presumably everyone listening has watched the show, but if for some reason you have not, please go watch it. It is just a delight. It's a really fun show. Very raunchy, but in a fun way. So
I really love the chemistry between Daphne and Simon in this.
I do too.
They pull it off. They do their fake pretend like we're so smart, ha ha ha, really, really well. But it ends up being very satisfying when they end up getting together, even with the lies hanging over them. And as they resolve in the second half of the season through all of the monster husband motifs, it's even more satisfying because you know that it's a more of a divine union for the two of them in that they're meeting each other on a truthful level.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very successful romance in that regard. And
Absolutely.
I'm so pleased that we got this, and that, that it became the big hit that it did, that Netflix greenlighted all these other seasons, and that we're really getting to just enjoy the full breadth of the show. And it also has put them in a position to, like we said, explore more of these contemporary themes, which that so it's wonderful to get this full-fledged period romance, and also get it in a way that we've never seen it before.
And I do think that this show has encouraged, what is it, 2 revivals of Regency era Jane Austen. Like there's more kind of this type of story that's happening. Like Emma came out after this, I think, as well. Not
similar time. No, similar time.
Like, it was similar time. Like it came out. I think we're getting more of this period of time because like people, it sells, right? So people are like, let's make more of that. But I hope that this also encourages people to explore more romance in general.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that this just being the mainstreaming of romance has been really nice. I know that there's a backlash as well. Like you're already seeing all the articles right now about how like romantasy is taking over. And the only thing I have to say to that is good.
Good. Oh my goodness. Like it's like asking if I want more cake.
Yeah.
Like, of course I want chocolate cake, and I want like strawberry shortcake, and I want vanilla cake, and I want birthday cake, and I want hazelnut tort, and I want fruit cake, and I want like I want all the flavors of cake.
Yeah.
Give me all the cake.
Absolutely. No. We want to have our cake and eat it too.
We do. Isn't that okay? Shouldn't we be allowed to have more cake?
I don't know, though. According to Marina, you have to be careful with cake because that's how her condition happened.
True. You make a good point.
Yeah, it's true.
We will be back next time with a discussion of Bridgerton season 2, the Kate and Anthony season, or the one that was the Viscount Who Loved Me based. Yeah. And this was based on the Duke and I. And where can people find you, Missy, if they are looking for you online?
Please look for me on Tumblr, where I am All Girls Are Princesses.
And I am Marie Claire Gould, and you can find me on Blue Sky at Marie C. Gould. That's pretty much where I am. All right. Take care, everyone. Good. Cheers.